This should be nice too.
Okay.
Michael, are you on?
I'm gonna pray again. That's right. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for everybody here. I thank you for the opportunity to speak for you, God. I speak through you, Lord. I just pray that you help me be honest with myself and the people here, God, and most importantly, in that problems not be an issue from now on. And Lord, I just pray for your truth tonight, and I pray that everybody's minds will be opened, God, and that you would give great truth tonight, and we will be able to saturate ourselves with understanding, God, and that we would live in the light of that understanding. And in your name I pray. Amen. Am I on? No. That's okay.
That better,
right?
So microphone on. Yeah.
Okay, so tonight we're talking about integrity.
Oh, I
walking
put
in
batteries
integrity.
in.
This
You
is
James?
sermon numero
That doesn't.
4 to 5 in our Leaving Neverland series. This
I know
is
there's something important.
me, Duncan, Ben, Adam, Cameron, and the rest of the leadership team. This is our efforts to sort of mature you guys. We don't want you guys to leave the youth group as guys and girls and boys and girls. We want you guys to leave as men and women of integrity. Walking in integrity to God's will. So I'm going to start off with something from the Bible. I figure that's a good place to start, being the Word of God and everything. So we're going to read from 1 John. 1 John chapter 2, 15 through 16. Good. Okay, 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 16. John is writing to the churches in Asia because they're kind of having struggles with their doctrine and everything like that. And this is sort of a letter of encouragement to them. And this is early on, and the church is kind of dealing with sin. So he's addressing that. And what he says in these verses is, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride and possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. So, integrity, that's what we're talking about. Integrity is sort of, the way John is addressing this is, he's kind of saying if you want to walk in integrity, which is what Christ calls us to do, which is what he shows us in his life. He's a man of integrity, a God of integrity. If we want to walk in integrity like him and be like him, we sort of have to do everything that doesn't come naturally. So we kind of got to almost work against ourselves to walk in integrity. Because he's talking about the world here, and initially when I see the word world, I think of planet Earth. I think of, the planet that we're on, with the moon, and we're in rotation with the sun and everything like that. That's the image I get in my head when I hear somebody say the word world. But that's not what John is talking about. When he says, do not love the world, he's not talking about the planet. He's not talking about Earth. He says, because as he goes on, he says, or the things in the world. And he talks a little more about this by explaining what some of these things are. The desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride in possessions. These are some of the things in and of the world. Now, the world doesn't have a flesh of its own. Planet Earth doesn't have flesh. It's a bunch of rock and water. It doesn't have eyes. It can't see anything. It's a planet. It's dead. It doesn't have pride in possessions. Doesn't have any possessions. What it's talking about is us. We are the flesh of the world. We're the ones with the eyes. We're the ones who have possessions, who attain things. The earth is just, it's just a planet. And so when he says, do not love the world, he's talking about the desires of the flesh. He's talking about us. He's talking about everybody here. He's talking about humanity. So another way to put it would be, do not love yourself. Do not love the things of yourself, the things of the people around you, the things that you would naturally do. The word integrity implies something that is complete, something that is not lacking. A good example, I think, is a bridge. If you have an expanse, you want to get from one end to the other end, you need to make a bridge. So, you make a bridge. So you're driving down with your car, and your family's in there, and you got to get somewhere. You got to cross this canyon. And you talk to the bridge maker, and you go, bro, I need to get to the other side of this expanse. And you say, can I trust your bridge? Like, is it going to fall when I go over? You know, it looks okay. And the bridge maker says, dude, my bridge is one of integrity. He says, I built it out of stone and metal, and I have a blueprint, and I went like all out. I made sure that, you know, it's protected against earthquake, it's protected against wind. You can have like 1,000,000 cars on it all at once, and it's going to be fine. It's immovable. It is a bridge of great integrity. You know, now if you're driving and you see a rickety old bridge that was made in like the 1800s, and it's just held together with nails and wood, you're like, seriously. You're not going to go over that bridge because it's going to break. It's going to break under your pressure. You think if there's a small breeze, it's going to fall over, you know? Much less if there's like an earthquake or something like that. It's not trustworthy. It's not solid. It's not sound. It's not complete. Integrity implies completeness, soundness, confidence, and fearlessness in terms of people. And we are of the world. As people, all of us are born in the world and are of the world. And the world is an evil place. The world is this way because we made it that way. Because in the Garden of Eden, when Adam sinned, this place, the wonderful things that God created were no longer wonderful. They were tainted, and they did the one thing they were not supposed to. And this whole world was plunged into total lameness. And we are totally stained by that. And it defines us when we come into this world. Our failure, the failure of the world, the failure of man, defines us. So basically, integrity is everything that we are not. We are sort of, you know, it's absent from Christ, we are defined by our failures and by our sin. You know, if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. So we are incomplete. But the world is deceiving. We are deceiving. We are able to deceive not only others but ourselves. And we are born into this world lacking Christ, lacking the presence of God, lacking the Holy Spirit indwelling us. And we all recognize, everybody recognizes that they are missing something, that there's a missing piece to the puzzle that is you. And everybody fills it in different ways. But nobody knows what it is. So basically, your life, when you come into the world, becomes this game of trial and error. You have to try everything to see if it satisfies, to see if it fills the hole. And there are moments and there are periods of time, and maybe your whole life, you can be convinced that you have found something that satisfies you, that makes you whole. But it really doesn't, you know. And this is the world's integrity. It's short-lived. It only lasts as long as you're alive, if that. And I know a man. I work with a man. I see him every day. I work at a nursing home where old people come to die, basically. And I take care of it. And there's one guy that I work with. I can't legally tell you his name, but I see him every day. I take care of him, and I love him to death. Really cool guy, fun to talk to, fun to hang around with. As far as the world is concerned, he's a man of integrity. He was an electrician when he graduated from college or whatever he did, his career was an electrician. He had like all these, he worked for radio stations across the states. Like, I don't know how he did it, but he said, yeah, I was responsible for like a couple hundred radio stations, keeping them all up and running across the whole United States. And I was like, I don't even know how you could do something like that. That's amazing. How you could be the man that is doing the upkeep for all these things. And then after that, he went on to become a police officer. And he put his life on the line for the protection of others. Now, if you ask me, you say, is that a man of integrity? And I'm going to say, yeah. A police officer? That's legit. That's, that's sacrificial. That's impressive. I'm into that. And then he also has a family. He married a wife, loved her, as far as they're concerned. And he had kids. They grew up. He raised them. He fed them. He took care of them. Put them in college. They all got wonderful degrees and jobs. And now they're following in their dad's footsteps. And they're in just wonderful standings. But now he's blind. And he can't see. He can't take care. He's completely, there's nothing. You can sneak into his room, and he won't know you're there. You just go, hey! And he's like, woo! Who's there? Who's there? And, but he's miserable. I go in and I go, hey man, it's me again. How you doing? And I've learned not to ask him this question anymore, because every time I say, how are you doing, or how's life, he just giggles and says, oh, terrible. Every time he says, it's awful. Life sucks. He's able to put a smile on somehow, but he says, I'm depressed. And he tells me all the time, I just want to kill myself. I just want to die. He's actually legitimately trying to find a way to commit suicide. But he can't really, because, the only thing he can do is hold his breath, and you're just going to pass out. He's blind. He can't even commit suicide. They got him on depression meds and everything like that, and it's a real bummer. He's a nice guy, but he's also a nice guy to be around. And his integrity and his wholeness and his pursuit of happiness led him here, led him to this. He did all these things. He became a cop. He got into a family. He did, he pursued the American dream. He attained success, love, all of these things. And he just wants to die. That's all he wants to do. He's sick of life. He tells me he has no purpose in living, and he's just ready to kick the bucket. And he'll do it himself if he has to. And this is what John is speaking against here in verses 15 and 17. Do not love the world or the things in the world. Anyone who loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, the pride and possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. Now we sort of know what not to do. Let's talk about something else. Let's move up to Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 11, and we're going to do part of verse 12. A little backstory on this is Paul. You guys were here last week. Who was here last week? You guys remember what Ben was talking on? Remember, he was talking about Paul, Timothy, and John, the different types of relationship. Huh? Yeah, the different types of relationships. So we're reading from one of Paul's letters to Timothy. So Paul is, when he's writing this, he's older. He's been there. He's done that. He's planted churches. He's gone out. He's just an amazing ministry. And Timothy is a young buck, and he's in charge of the church in Ephesus. And Timothy is struggling with sin in his church. He's struggling with the world, trying to come in and mess up what he's got going, what Christ has going through him and in him. And so Paul is calling him and encouraging him, coming alongside him and encouraging him and giving him truth and showing and speaking him. And this is what he says. This is near the end. Paul goes on through the letter talking about things to avoid, people to look out for, correct ways of thinking and acting and walking. And near the end of it, he says, but as for you, O man of God, this is Paul talking to Timothy, flee these things. Flee the desires of the world. Flee the ways of the world. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. What Paul is advising Timothy to do, he's saying you need to walk in integrity. You need to be upright. See, integrity, these are things I think it's so, especially the word steadfastness. That just those, you go into the dictionary and steadfastness is, I'm pretty sure, one of the definitions of integrity. Steadfast, trustworthy, it's like a house with a firm foundation. Paul is saying you need to know what it is you're preaching on. You need to understand your faith. You need to preach it boldly and fearlessly. You need to be in the Word actively, using the Word actively. You need to be ready at the drop of a dime to act in a way that honors God, to act in spite of yourself, in spite of your worldly tendencies. So he's saying, be everything, because the world, righteousness. He says, pursue righteousness. That is not a natural thing for a person to be righteous. Righteousness is completely, we are separate from anything that is righteous when we are separate from Christ, when we come into the world. That's not, it's not a person's natural tendency to be a righteous person. To pursue godliness, that's something that I don't think anybody can attain. Godliness. When you say that's to be like God, and God is perfect. God is the creator of the universe. God is a God of integrity. His kingdom is one of great integrity. Faith is like, a good way to put it is the opposite of fear. We operate out of fear so much of the time. Even when we're in love, when we approach somebody that we love, we fear what they think of us. We fear what they want to see us doing. We're trying to figure out what's going on in their minds, what they want to see in us. Even when we're trying to love people, we're in fear of them. In fear of our own failure. Love, steadfastness, and gentleness. Gentleness is not a natural tendency of a human being, because we need to get what we need to get, Because like I was saying, we have this empty hole, we have this missing piece to the puzzle, we need to get it. And being gentle is not necessarily a way to normally get things. You have to be forceful. You have to be enthusiastic. And this is the charge that Paul is giving to Timothy. You need to be these things. And these things are not natural for you. These things are gifts from God. These things are things that represent Jesus Christ. This is how Christ walked. This is not how we walk. Integrity. Yeah. You think about why Paul thinks Timothy should do these things. When we're trying to fill this hole, we're trying to become whole. We're trying to become complete in this life, and we're trying to be happy. We're trying to if you find yourself being depressed or sad, your goal is to get happy, is to not be depressed anymore, is to find something to get you out of your slump. And we might use the Bible, we might use even walking in integrity and in Christ's witness to get us out of our depression, to get us out of our sadness, to scare away these maybe our evil thoughts and our evil tendencies, because we want to be happy, we want to be fulfilled, we want to be whole. But that's not the goal. See, God made us to worship Him. God made us to glorify Him. That's our purpose. That's why He made us. Think about why someone might make a piece of art, might paint a painting, or sculpt a sculpture. Or I'm a songwriter. I like to write music. When I write a song, I'm not writing the song so that the song can enjoy itself. When somebody builds a sculpture, they're not building the sculpture so it can enjoy itself. When somebody does a painting, they're not painting the painting so the painting can say, man, I'm great, That's not the point. When I write a song, it's an extension of myself. It's an extension of me. The lyrics that I write and the music that I write it's out of the emotions that I'm feeling. It's out of the things that are going on in my life. And when you look at the song, you get sort of a snapshot of a portion of my life. When you look at a sculpture, you can kind of see it. It's sort of an image of the one who made it. You know what I mean? Because it's coming from their mind, it's coming from their heart, it's coming from their soul. And same with paintings. And it is exactly the same. That's an analogy for God's creation of man, for God's creation of us. It says in the Bible that we are image bearers of God. He made us in His image. When God made us, He didn't make us for us. We weren't our own idea. We were God's idea. We were made by God for God. So that's our purpose. Our purpose is not to be happy. Our purpose is not to be without depression, without sadness, without anger or hatred or any of these things. Our purpose is simple. It's simply to worship God, to emulate Him, to be like Him. When I create a song and when I get it all finished, I just get this wonderful feeling. I'm like, I've explained what's going on in my life in song. And that is just, I just finished a song the other day and I'm just like, it's this big, loud rock song and I'm playing it as loud as I can on my amp. And I'm just like, Mom, you have to come and check this out. Listen to this song. I finally finished it. I'm so proud of it, And that's the same with any form of art. You finish it and you're like, look what I've done. I enjoy this. I created you, I'm your biggest fan because you're like me, because you emulate me, because I'm great, you're great, and that's what God did. I am great. You look like me. I made you. You are an extension of who I am, and that's what makes you worthwhile, because you are the image of my glory. That's what God was thinking when He made us. And that's what our purpose should be. See, happiness is the goal of a lot of people, of almost everybody. It's, and I struggle against it myself. I want to be happy. I want to be without depression. I want to be doing good. I want to be successful. But that's not the goal. See, our success, our happiness is in God's happiness. Okay? That's the goal. Do you guys know what a byproduct is? See, if you're working for one thing, that's the goal. We're working for God's glory. A byproduct of that, something that just happens because we're pursuing that goal, is happiness, is wholeness. It puts us where we're supposed to be. And if you're fulfilling your purpose, of course you're going to be happy. That song or the sculpture, if it forgets, if it somehow attained consciousness and forgets why it was made, and starts singing, to itself. It's the song, and the song is the only one that can hear it, if that makes any sense at all. Or the statue goes off and just enjoys himself, and the master is like, the one who made it is like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. I made you for me. I didn't make you for yourself. You're not here for you. So that's the goal. Now, if we can go back to 1 John, chapter 2, 17. He goes on. So he's talking about avoid the things of the world. Basically, avoid yourself, your own natural tendencies, the things that you want to do, the things that you want to be, what comes naturally to you. Don't do it. Don't do what comes naturally to the people around you. Don't fill yourself with yourself. Don't fill yourself with the things around you. Don't fill yourself with the people around you. Don't fill yourself with the world. He goes on to say, and the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever. And the world is passing away along with its desires. Just like the guy that I work with. I see him every day. He is dying. All of his desires, everything that he stood for, is passing away and is going to be completely forgotten. And it's going to be for nothing. It's going to be a complete waste of time. Some people talked about Jesus being the missing piece of the puzzle. But I think there is no puzzle. Jesus is the complete picture. Jesus is the complete picture. Without Jesus, there is nothing. There is a blank slate of empty space. Because the Bible talks about how we are just a wisp, just a vapor. We're here and then we're gone, and we're barely even noticed. And that's so true. There were people in the Old Testament, it talks about how they lived for thousands of years. Some people, well, not quite thousands of years, but close. One guy lived almost to 1,000 years. And he's gone. I can't even remember what his name is. I'm sure somebody does. Okay, well, maybe people last a little longer than I thought. But still, who we are, the world, it's all passing away because it's not fulfilling its purpose. It's not here. It's not doing the things that it was made to do. It's a waste of time. We become a waste of time when we're not fulfilling our goals, when we're not fulfilling God's goals, when we're not seeking His happiness, when we're not making His happiness our happiness. And at the very end it says, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. Everybody wants to abide forever. Abiding forever to me implies peace and happiness and wholeness, satisfaction. But you have to notice the order in which things are said. Whoever does the will of God, then you abide forever. It's not the other way around. We're not seeking our peace. We're not seeking our own happiness. Okay? A state of mind that I think is a good one is to recognize that God is worthy of love just because He's perfect, just because He is the creator of everything. Whether we love Him or not, He is worthy of love. He is worthy of all good things. And I sometimes think to myself, what if God decided not to forgive me? I sinned, and God said, you know what, it's right for me to kill this person. It's right for me to kill Michael. It's right for me to separate myself from him, let him die, and burn in hell. That would not make me happy. I would be really bummed out if Jesus decided not to come down to the cross and die for me and give me a second chance. But I think to myself, well, God is still worthy of love in that situation because He's still perfect, because He is just. He's still sending people to hell. He's still disciplining them. Okay? He's still letting people die and burn in hell. But He's still worthy of love. He is just and He is perfect. And you can't even describe how perfect He is. He's just worthy of love. And I say, if I was going to hell, could I love God anyways? Could I love God even though I was going to hell? If I had an understanding of Him. He said, Michael, you disobeyed me, so I'm going to kill you and send you to hell for the rest of eternity, and it's going to suck for you. Could I say, God, you are just. I love you because you are worthy of love. Not because I'm happy, not because I'm whole, not because I'm complete, but because you are worthy of love. Could you find yourself in that state of mind, loving God regardless of your situation, regardless of your circumstances? Luckily, He did come and die on the cross, and we get to go to heaven. So, let's not get all depressed or anything like that, but I think that's a way to think about it. I think that's an important way to think about it. And we need to recognize that Christ did give us a second chance. And that should even more encourage us to want to walk in integrity, to want to walk in righteousness, godliness, to emulate Him, to be like Him. Originally, it was natural for us to do that before sin. But we need to work towards that. See, walking in integrity is working against yourself, is working against what you would naturally do, is working against what you want to do, what comes natural to you in any given situation. To walk in integrity is to do what God wants and not what you want. Because you are evil. Because we are all evil. We are born and we are sinful, and it is Christ that makes us perfect. It is His ways that get us to heaven. Okay? That get us in His good graces. and godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Yeah. Truth. So, I'm going to end us in prayer, and then we're going to break out for small groups. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for this time, God. I thank you for your word, for your truth. I thank you that you are worthy of love, God. And I pray that everybody here, including myself, would love you for that reason alone. That we would not love you because you do things for us. That we would not love you because we're going to heaven. That we would not love you because we're happy, because we aren't depressed. Lord, but that we would love you just because that's the way it is. That's what you are deserving of, God. Because you are a God that is worthy of all good things, because you are perfect. I pray that that's why we would love you, Lord. I pray for the rest of tonight, God. I pray for the small groups, Lord, as we break apart into junior high and high school boys and girls. I pray that you would be with us, Lord. Your word says that when two or more of you gather together, I am there with you. And you are certainly here with us now, God. I thank you for that. I pray that you would meet us where we are, and I pray that we would live in light of your truth. Please give us understanding. In your name I pray. Amen. So, high schooler boys are with Duncan.
And Ben.
And who?
And Ben.
And Ben. Junior high boys are with me and Cameron. Huh? Thanks. I mean, okay, sure. And high schooler girls are with Sarah.
And Becca.
And Becca. And junior high girls are with Katie.